This is Andy Thomas from the Masculine Journey podcast, where we discover what it means to be a wholehearted man. Your chosen Truth Network podcast is starting in just seconds. Enjoy it, share it, but most of all, thank you for listening and for choosing the Truth Podcast Network.
This is the Truth Network.
The tinsmith forgot to give me a heart.
No heart?
No heart. All hollow.
When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. Just because I'm presuming that I could be kinda human if I only had a heart.
Welcome to the Christian Car Guy Radio Show.
I say this calls for action, and now.
Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on.
The heart that goes on today on the Christian Car Guy Show. So, wow. Bob is with me today. How fun is that? My Christian junkyard guy. Welcome, Bob.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here.
So the heart that goes on. And as you heard, the Tin Woodman from The Wizard of Oz, always fun. You know, you would be on your kettle, or your metal, Bob, if you had a heart. And Celine Dion spoke right from the movie Titanic, interestingly. But that song, The Heart Goes On, very significant song. So along those lines, today's show is not, just, always we bring it to you by a Hebrew letter. And the Hebrew letter that is bringing you today's show is called a mem. And a mem has two forms, a closed mem and an open form. And we're going to get all into that in a little while. But what does a heart have to do with cars? Oh, you're going to be shocked. We're going to get all over that today. So, one of the cool things that I get to do working for Truth Broadcasting is I help produce some shows. And so one of the shows that I actually do the recording for is Nikita Koloff's Man Up show, which he has a podcast. It's called Questions and Answer with Koloff, which you may know. Nikita Koloff was a champion wrestler, back in the day, the Russian Nightmare, Nurshatoka. Anyway, his pastor is an amazing guy, and he was asking him some questions in the Q&A with Koloff. And one of the questions that he hit him with went right at my heart. I mean, it went right at my heart. And the question was, if you could spend the afternoon with anyone except Jesus, who lived in the last 300 years, who would you choose? And although Nikita went with Winston Churchill, my heart immediately went to my parents. Like the choice between, would it be my mom? If I could spend the afternoon with anybody that had been alive, would it have been my mom? Would it be my dad? Who would that be? Or how about you? Right? Where does your heart go with that? I mean, it told me really that question, Bob. It told me a lot about myself. Like it wasn't. I wouldn't trade Winston. You could pick anybody you wanted. If I had that real opportunity, this is exactly who I would want to talk to. So the question today on the Christian Car Guy Show, I really want to hear from you, our listeners. If you had that opportunity and you could talk to anybody in the last 300 years, where does your heart go with that question? 866-348-7884 is the number to call in. Seriously, I would love to know you had anybody that's been alive in the last 300 years and you had a chance to spend the afternoon with them. They could be alive today even. Who would that be? 866-348-7884. So I'm kind of guessing I know the answer to Bob's.
Yeah, most of the time he fills me in on what we're going to be talking about. He said, "Don't worry about today." It says, "I want to surprise you." And wow, I am highly surprised. It's to spend an afternoon with my son, and maybe get an answer to the dynamics around his death, and I'd have to ask him how mom and dad's doing too, though, because I'm sure they've spent some time in each other's presence, and it's just it would really be amazing, and you miss them every day, and we talk about it, and there's so many things that brings his memory up. I put a necklace on every day that has his thumbprint and a picture of his first win at Bowman Gray Stadium. So, he's still with me, but to spend some time with him in his presence would just be incredible.
Right. And so the interesting thing, if you just think about the question, like you had a chance, and here it comes, to spend an afternoon with anybody that had been alive in the last 300 years. Where does your heart go with that? And what does that tell you about your heart? Like, as I began to evaluate that, and believe me, I really am 100% serious. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that. 866-348-7884. I'm counting on you to call me in because I want to have these. I want to know more about you. But what it told me about I was really kind of surprised the more I thought about it, because I've had a few days to process this, Bob, and I'm more convinced than I was when I originally heard it that I definitely would pick one of my parents. The challenge for me is which one would it be, because you can only pick one. I still haven't come to an answer, but
I think I could find out some things about my parents from Rob. And we were just such a big part of each other's life, and it would be a great thing. It would be a great thing. Although I do spend time with him in my heart and in my mind, and there's not a day that goes by that he doesn't enter my mind.
Right. And so I have been working on this podcast myself called The Hidden Treasures, 119th Psalm. And I've really delighted in it. And I've got, I think, believe it or not, I have 12 episodes. No, I have 24 episodes so far on just the first 12 verses. And so you can see we're taking kind of a deep dive into there. But when you look at the 10th verse of the 119th Psalm, King David, which we believe is the psalmist there, wrote, "With my whole heart I have sought you." And then as a response to that, he says, "Don't let me wander from your mitzvah." Now that's translated in the English as "don't let me wander from your commandments." But if you just throw an English word out there like commandments, a lot of people go in a lot of places with that. But that isn't at all. When he says, "Don't let me wander from your mitzvahs," this is a very specific kind of commandment, if you want to use that word. I don't know that I do. These are the things, when you look in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, these are the kind of things that have to do with giving, that, helping out a neighbor. These are the kind of things that you do for other people. And I don't know, I'm just lucky to have in my life people like Bob. And I got another friend, his name is Corn. And he's not, if you were to meet Corn, you'd say, well, he's a lot like Bob. He's a wholehearted person. When you meet him, they usually come from the heart, and whatever you hear from them is coming out of their heart. But because he is who he is, when I went to Jamaica with him, anytime he saw anybody in need, he could spot them way before I would. And he'd be over there helping them out with something, praying for them, giving them French fries. It was like he was a one-man like giver. And what I thought was like, wow, to actually know the psalmist, to know King David, I'm going to say he's going to be like one of those people that you've met that is just unbelievably generous. He was looking for people to give to, right? And looking for opportunities to share his heart. So don't let me down here. I'm waiting on those calls, 866-348-7884. You had the afternoon with somebody who lived in the last 300 years. Who would that be? Or maybe you've got a friend who lives like that, who you've seen them. They have a whole heart, and then they somehow can spot people. They can spot a mitzvah. They can spot an opportunity to jump in there and help somebody, like Boaz spotted Ruth, right? And he, she needed some grain, and he hooked her up.
Like deep power.
So we got so much more, but please call me. I want to hear your stories. 866-348-7884.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
The tinsmith forgot to give me a heart.
No heart?
No heart. All hollow.
When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. Just because I'm presuming that I could be kinda human if I only had a heart.
The heart that goes on today at Christian Car Guy. We would love to hear your stories of if you could spend an afternoon with anyone that had been alive in the last 300 years. Who would that be? 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH for the digitally gifted. And I like that. I just can't, Bob. I never could. But anyway. Or maybe you knew a wholehearted person, right, that just seems to never miss an opportunity to give. And I would be remiss if I didn't say my wife is that way. I mean, she is one of those wholehearted, like, here's an opportunity, and she's gonna do that. So it's absolutely wonderful. Well, I want to speak for a minute as we actually are getting some calls. I'm excited about that. That King David said, "When I have a whole heart," and when you look at that word "whole" in Hebrew, it starts with this letter hoof, which is like a crown. But if you can picture, it's sort of suppressing something. And what it's doing is suppressing everything but God. In other words, in order to focus on God, you got to put the kibosh on everything else. Right? And so when King David was showing us that in Hebrew, this idea of a whole heart came from the fact that he could somehow or another suppress everything that didn't have to do with God so he could go after him with that was the focus, because he literally put pressure. Like the palm of your hand, you would put pressure down on something to give you that whole heart. But then as he connected that to the word mitzvah, a mitzvah is like if you say the word command in Hebrew, it would be a sva without the mitz. All right? It actually just doesn't have the mem. And I said the show was brought to you by the letter mem, which the letter mem is Jesus, by the way. It's the Messiah. When you hear that mama sound in the Messiah, that's the mem. And that mem, as you might guess, is the way, the truth, and the life. It's also the word, but the other thing it is full of grace and truth. And so when you take a commandment and you add grace and truth to it, right, you get a mitzvah. Right? If, in other words, here comes something that you're supposed to do because you're supposed to be Jesus, right? Here's the deal. And so what would Jesus do in this particular situation when you see that person in Jamaica that hasn't had any food for 3 days, right? And if you're corn, you're jumping into that particular situation. And so what the psalmist, what David is saying is when you put the kibosh on everything else, your heart now sees things the way that God sees things. And the result of that wholeheartedness, quite often, is this remarkably just beautiful, Bob, person that is very generous.
Well, you amazed me when you mentioned your wife because, there's no more unselfish person in the world than my wife. Our son's home now from the Navy, and we're getting to spend some really great time with him. And, just to see the light put back in her tower, when he came back around
I bet.
and such. And it's done a whole lot for me. The impact that he tells me I've had on his life, earlier, and he shared a lot of stuff that, I always felt it, but I had never heard it. And he shared some things with me recently that have really warmed me. And, I was so grateful that I had Jeremy and Sean in my life when Rob left.
Yeah.
Because they helped fill the void, and them being there and the super kindness and awesomeness displayed by my wife in that time of my need, it's what carried me through. Jeremy and I were talking about it yesterday about, how my outcome would have not been nearly as easy and nearly as complete without her in my life at that time.
Oh, I know, because I know Lori. So we got Bob is in Chapel Hill, and Bob, you're on the Christian Car Guy Show. Good morning, Bob.
Nice name, Bob.
Good morning. I like that name. Thank you.
Yeah, there's three
Good
of us
morning.
sitting
Good
here.
morning, guys.
Robert is. But anyway,
much too formal. Much too formal for this morning.
Yes, I understand. So,
no, if I was thinking about who I would want to talk to, and all these famous people come to mind, but it would be my grandfather who died when I was a young child, and I never got to know him. And because of that, we never got a lot of the history of my dad. And I think if I had my dad come back, he still wouldn't tell me. So I think I had to go to his dad.
That's a very interesting thing you say, Bob, because I asked the same question at my Christian Businessmen's Committee meeting this week. And one of my really, really best friends, Gaither, he said almost exactly. He said, I want my grandfather because I want to hear more of the story of what the real deal was with my father.
Amen.
They'll give it to you straight, too.
That's why you want to talk to him. And I have a feeling I'm becoming more like him every day, and I'm not sure that's good or bad.
Yeah, if you want the unfiltered version, go to his father. You're exactly right.
That's it.
That's so beautiful. Bob, thank you. I mean,
thank you guys for what you do, man.
I really, really appreciate that. Tells me a lot about your heart. Which I already knew because I happen to know this is my friend Bob from Peace Church in Durham. I can tell by your voice, Bob.
Okay. I was trying to hide it. I even gave you a different city, but you still figured it out.
I'm just glad you called, and I'm so grateful for your grandfather because without him, then I never would have had a chance to meet Bob. So thank you, buddy.
Amen to that.
All right.
All right. You guys have a great day.
God
Thanks,
bless.
brother.
Bye-bye. All right, we got Virginia is in Lexington, North Carolina, but you can call with yours at 866-348-7884, Virginia. Oh, I got to you right before the break. Virginia, will you hang on for us? I'm hoping she will. We're going to put her back on hold, and hopefully we can get Virginia, but we need you. I wanted to hear your story. 866-348-7884. Wholehearted. We're going to be right. The heart that goes on.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
You open the door and you
Heart That Goes On today on the Christian Car Guy Show.
She sings almost as good as I did. That girl can really sing.
She really can, and that song can bring tears to my eyes just easily. But anyway, we are so excited because we have Virginia is in Lexington. Virginia, you're on the Christian Car Guy Show, and you've got a story for us?
Yes, good morning. I was 14 years old when my father died, and I would like to be able to talk with him and just tell him how much I appreciated him for those 14 years and how much I loved him and just get some of his wisdom and he meant a lot to me, and I sure have missed him.
Oh, I'm with you, Virginia. And, as I thought about, if I had that chance to be with either of my parents, the questions wouldn't matter.
Just being in their presence.
Right. It would just be like, wow, to just be there. And, it's kind of cool to think that that's how God feels about you.
Yeah, wow. That's true. And being in the Heavenly Father's presence is all you need too.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? That's absolutely, yeah, just to be with him or be with her or, as the case may be. So thank you, Virginia. You couldn't have said it better.
Thank you.
And thank you for your father. I mean, it's just wonderful. And that is a heart that goes on, right?
Yes, it is.
That's beautiful.
And thank you for letting me share that.
Oh, I'm grateful you did. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I'm pretty excited about this next caller because her name happens to be the same as my granddaughter's name, and it says she's in Winston-Salem, which is where my granddaughter actually lives in Louisville. But Lila, is that the Lila I know?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this is my beautiful granddaughter. The voice. This is the voice behind. If you've ever heard the First Rule of Fishing story, right? And she's the voice of what's the character you played in Christian Car Guy Theater last? The Faith.
I think it was Piety, and I played Cricket.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So Lila, you could be with anybody that has been alive for the last 300 years. Who would that be for you?
So I'm young, and I haven't suffered much loss in my life, and I want to savor every moment with my family that I possibly can. Like you said, you wanted to go back and see your parents. I would probably spend it with mine or my grandparents because I want to savor every moment, every memory I can with them.
Yeah.
I wish you could see his face when your name popped up on the screen. This man is so fond of you, young lady. I am here to tell you he's one of my dearest friends and one of the best people I know. But you are definitely the light of his life.
and have been for years. All those stories that we've talked about of, singing, coming down the mountain with Grandpa. You remember that?
Yeah.
And,
I do.
we went to Grandma's house that time in the red truck, just me and you. And, it's just all those precious adventures.
I have recently been blessed with a grandchild. And I'd mentioned a moment ago that Jeremy had got home from the Navy. And I got to be there when Jeremy met his niece, and what a precious, precious family moment that was. And they took to each other. Jeremy is so good with. Now Haven is only 2 months old.
Is that her name, Haven?
Haven, yes, sir.
All right.
And Jeremy is so good with little people. I mean, tiny people. He was so comfortable and. You could tell Haven was comfortable with him, and there was times that he was the whisperer. He was the one that could get her to calm down, and we had such a great visit, and we stayed around and ate supper and just spent hours together, and it was just a great family moment. And just to see how good he was with his niece was one of those moments that you'll just never forget.
Yeah, family is very, very special, and I know that it is to Lila. Thank you so much for calling, Lila.
Of course.
And what a treasure you are. So come back. You start school next week, so we got to be praying. All right.
Yep.
7th grade, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. She's on her way, Bob.
Good luck with that.
Oh, that was a treat. But the next treat's coming. I need your call. 866-348-7884. You know, you got that person you'd want to share some time with. What might that look like for you? It would mean a lot for me to hear that. 866-348-7884. And, that's the kind of stuff, Bob. It really is. That I think God loves to share with us.
Well, he gives us these moments and these gifts and precious time with people, I think, to sustain us after they're gone. I mean, I used to speak to children's sermons. I used to do children's sermons at our church, and a little short message to the kids and bring them all up front. And just have a little special moment. And my mom appeared in so many of those because, my childhood lessons, so many of them came from her. And we were talking, Jeremy and I were talking last night about how good he is about speaking with adults. And it used to amaze people. I'd go over to visit at somebody's house and I'd be talking to their parents, and they'd see me later and says, my parents were really freaked out about you talking to them, because they wasn't used to it. But see, when I was little, I was traveled with my mom, and when she went to get her hair done and everything, I was in the beauty shop
That's right.
with adults. So it wasn't a problem for me to talk to adults. And Jeremy seems to have that gift, that was able to pass along, and he just loves talking to people, and it's just a gift, and it came from Mom and my time together with her.
And from my standpoint, again, when I think of the wholehearted people that I've been blessed to know, right? And how those wholehearted people do mitzvahs. They are the ones that love one another. Those are the people that really seem to find ways to love on that person that looks like they're the outcast, whatever that may be. As you know, the whole reason I teach special needs ministries is my wife completely. This was not my idea. This was totally her idea, over 20 years ago, because she has that wholehearted, kind of thing. And so when you see that in the 119th Psalm, like, with a whole heart, I've sought you, don't let me wander from your midst, because these moments that you have to love on people, whatever that may be, and it's like that with the labor of love, Bob, when we have these moments with Jesus labor of love, it's the car repair labor for single moms, widows, and families in crisis. And just this week, a couple times I talked to Scott Barton, our volunteer that has this opportunity to pray with these people as they come in, and the different situations that they have. These really are mitzvah, okay?
He seems to be such a perfect fit for that.
We prayed a long time, and look what God sent us. That isn't that amazing?
That's amazing, because there's a huge dynamic behind that. And it's just amazing when things come full circle and the right person gets in place.
Right. Because, you got this situation where you got to be somewhat wise, because people that are in need, they're hurting. And because they're hurting, they're sometimes a little bit difficult to get through, right? And to be able to be there, but his ability to pray with them and those kind of things, believe me when I tell you, those are mitzvah. They may be called commandments, but they're mitzvah. All right, and they start with a mem for a reason because it's all about Jesus. So when we come back, we got one more time for you to call us. One more segment, 866-348-7884. Don't let this chance go by. We want to hear from you.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
A heart that goes on today at the Christian Car Guy Show, and we got some wonderful calls. I'm so excited for the people that are calling in. But before I go there, I got to talk about another wholehearted person that we both know, Bob, that always helps out with the Jesus Labor Love. He has helped me out with the Jesus Labor Love ever since you put him on me. His name is Terry Inman, and oh my goodness, like, Terry has always been the kind of guy, he's like overwhelmed because he's trying to help so many people at the same time. But you got to admit, man, it's like the other day I was like, Terry, can you help me out? I got to get rid of this lawnmower. And, oh man, we need to give it away. I know this ministry that gives away lawnmowers. And then as it turned out, when he came to pick up this, I had a riding lawnmower that I wasn't using. And when he came to pick it up, he goes, oh, Bob's stepson, Sean, needs a lawnmower. We'll give it, and I'm like, oh, man, you mean we can keep it in the family?
Oh, and it was such a blessing to him. He is enjoying it. He has a large yard, and he'd been push mowing it, and the grass is really taking off and growing like crazy this year. And it was just such a blessing to him to be able to do the riding thing instead of that push mowing.
That's good.
I remember when I was young, I had to do a lot of push mowing. That was a source of income.
Well, I was remiss. I didn't mention that today at 1 o'clock on the Truth Network is Amy Cabo and The Cure. They're going to be talking about recovering from abuse through ministry. A survivor that has turned now to help others, like as God helped him. They're now helping others on The Cure today at 1 o'clock on the Truth Network. We got to get to Patricia is in Holly Springs, North Carolina. Patricia, you're on the Christian Car Guy Show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
I can, but if you turn your radio down, it'll be a little less confusing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm so excited to hear your story.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh, I can. I'm so excited.
Yeah, if you turn your radio off,
Okay.
you won't get that because there's
Okay.
a delay that really is confusing. But yeah, tell us your story.
Yes. Well, just a moment. Okay. Yes, I just wanted to say that I would love to spend some time with my mom, who passed in 2007. Everybody, most people think their mom is the best, and I have to repeat it. My mom was the best, and not only was she the best to me, but she was the best to the people that she knew. People loved her, and she loved the people. She was not judgmental, but she was just the best mom and my dad, and they would prepare meals back in the day when I was a child. There were only three of us, but Mom would always cook enough food as though she had a big family, and I used to wonder why she cooked so much food. She said, well, in case someone came back hungry or whatever, we'll have enough food for them. And she did this every Sunday. And it just amazed me. We always had company. It was just so wonderful. I could go to her and talk to her about anything in the whole wide world. She would just smile and give me advice if I asked for it. Growing up, she told somebody that Pat won't lie. I was about 14 then, I guess. And I thought, okay. It was really funny. But anyway, she was such a loving mom.
Oh, wouldn't it be?
Room and my husband built a house. Even before then, I never, very seldom, I missed a day walking across the path there to visit my mom. She always welcomed me with open arms and such a beautiful smile. And so I look forward to spending time with her in eternity.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell. It wouldn't it? Yeah, it would.
With my mom and my dad.
Oh, it really will. It really will. Thank you, Patricia. I'm so excited to hear. And I'm with you. Like, if we just sit there with him, it'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? It really would. God bless you. Thank you for calling in today. That was courageous, and I loved hearing it. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, we have Misty is in Charlotte, North Carolina. Misty, you're on the Christian Car Guy Show. Good morning, Misty.
Good morning.
So how about you?
Well, the person I would want to see is my identical twin sister. I lost her a little over 2 years ago to an overdose, and she was, twins. We definitely had the connection. We went through the same health issues and good times, and everything was the same with us, and we were together before anybody else knew us. We knew each other 9 months before anybody else knew who we were. So I just can't wait to see her again. It's the only thing that keeps me going.
Really?
It really is.
I was around twins earlier in my life, and when they were little, they had their own language. They'd be over there just carrying on a conversation before anybody could understand. They knew exactly what each other was saying to each other. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah. With one look, just one look, you knew exactly what the other one was thinking. It's crazy.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be just precious to spend another few hours, right?
Oh, my gosh,
just in her
it would
presence.
be awesome.
It would be. It would be.
Yeah.
And so the heart does go on, doesn't it, Misty?
It does. Yes, it does.
Because
she's in it.
She is. And I love that. That's quite a concept to think, wow, you were in the womb with her, just you and her, for that whole period of time. What's interesting, Bob, and few people know this, that I didn't speak well because my sister was deaf, and we were about 1.5 years apart. We weren't twins. But she taught me her language. And so my parents would sit there, and there we were, Linda and I were just gabbing, and they ended up having to put us both through speech therapy. She had trouble hearing. And so she developed this strange language. Well, she taught it to me. And so there we were.
Well, that's just like twins. That is just like twins. Yeah. That's for sure.
That's awesome, Misty. Thank you. I'm so grateful for. And what was your sister's name?
Her name was Christy.
Christy and Misty. I love that.
Yes.
There you go.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Misty.
You.
God bless.
All right. You too.
Wow, Bob. It seems like we got some neat names to pray about. This as I'm on my way home today, I'm going to be thinking about Misty and Patricia and the wonderful folks that have called in today to share their hearts. Right? Because this is where the rubber meets the road, as far as I'm concerned. Like your heart is where God wants access. And this stuff, right, is heart to heart, right?
Opening your heart and sharing your heart and sharing the voids and the fullnesses of your heart.
Right. And few people can touch you, right? Where your family has had this years and years and years. So it's a beautiful thing, of course. My granddaughter calling in, who could forget that moment?
So the tissue box got a little light there.
Well, I am so grateful for all the calls, and we do know that the heart goes on, and most of all, because Jesus is in it, that mem that we talked about, it's a beautiful thing that he is the living water, and he's right there with you. So, again, I would ask you to consider praying for our folks in the Jesus Labor Love, or if God puts it on your heart to give. You can go to ChristianCarGuy.com, listen to the podcast on the 119th Psalm, all those episodes. Again, we'll look forward to next week, won't we, Bob?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, it's awesome. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to the Truth Network. TruthNetwork.com.
This is the Truth Network.